Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Thursday, July the 17th. We're over halfway through the month of July already. Starting off at the top of the board with the Florida Panthers. Bjornfot is sticking around. So Florida's really not losing anybody here. He signs a one-year, two-way contract. So at the NHL level, it will pay him league minimum of $775,000. In the AHL, it will pay him $450,000. So AHL salaries are so widely different. We've reported on guys who are making as little as $70,000 at the AHL level, and guys making upwards of $500,000 US at the AHL level. So just crazy to see how different some of the pay is in the American Hockey League. Jagr Chinakhov, so former first-round draft pick of the Columbus Blue Jackets, of course, had a bit of an off season. He only played 30 games, and he was a healthy scratch late in the season, and apparently that's left a bad taste in his mouth. He has come out and expressed his frustration with the coach, which would be Dean Evison, and also frustration with ice time and how much he's been used, and saying he'd like to be traded. Chinakhov's young enough that I think there will be teams looking. There are teams looking for forward depth, which will probably make that phone call. I always kind of have that feeling of, okay, so if the player's right and he shouldn't have been a healthy scratch, that's great. But if the player's wrong and can't see that, then that's a whole different argument right there. So we'll see what happens with Chinakhov. We'll see if he gets traded. I would think there's enough teams in the market right now for a forward that it would probably happen. But let me know your thoughts. Where would you like to see Chinakhov go? Do you think they make up? And keep in mind that it feels like every offseason we see a European-born player. Something comes out in the media about them wanting a trade, and then something will come out to counter that, or the player will come out a couple days later and go, that's not what I meant. And so I'm only have this on the board because multiple sources are saying that this is going on and that he wants out of Columbus. So we'll see. But Chinakhov's year wasn't fantastic, but he's still young enough that I think there will be teams making that call. Carter Bear, first-round draft pick of the Detroit Red Wings this season, has signed his entry-level contract, and much like most of the other first-rounders I've seen, the cap hits $975,000, and then there are bonuses in there as well that could bump that up to $1.475 million. So Carter Bear, another in a long list of first-round draft picks of Steve Yzerman, and we'll see whether or not Bear ends up in the lineup for Detroit sooner or later. The Chicago Blackhawks, this is an interesting one. They signed an undrafted goaltender, the 22-year-old Berezhnoy gets signed by them. He gets a 2-year entry-level contract, and he gets $975,000 as his cap hit as well. Might be one to keep an eye on when it's an undrafted goaltender that gets picked up. Sometimes undrafted goaltenders end up being pretty darn good. So we'll see what the Chicago Blackhawks are up to here and how their depth is going to look in net for this season. But it's a free contract. It's a young goaltender. It makes some sense. So speaking of young goaltenders, NHL.com has just been ranking players under the age of 25. It has ranked Dustin Wolf of the Calgary Flames as the number one goaltender under the age of 25. I did look at the list, and I thought it was interesting that they did include Trey Augustine, who hasn't played a game in the National Hockey League yet. And there were a couple that I thought of right away as omissions who have played in the NHL and have looked all right. So it's not a perfect thing. There's going to be some subjectivity to it. And I will agree that Wolf at number one is probably the right call. And keep this in mind. Dustin Wolf was drafted very late because he was short, not for any other reason. And goaltenders, I do think there's some short goaltenders out there. And by short, I mean like 6 feet tall. They're not that short. But I think there's probably some other goaltenders who are in that 6 foot, maybe 5'11" range, who are really rooting for Wolf to do really, really well to maybe change some scouts' minds or coaches or GMs or something about needing a goaltender who's 6'5", 7'8", in that region. The Vancouver Canucks reportedly are still looking at making additions, very likely to their forward group. However, they do not have a lot of cap space, so they're looking to clear cap space. Dakota Joshua's name's been coming up a lot locally as a player who may be out there. Teddy Bluger's another one whose name's been coming up a lot. I don't know if the Canucks are going to trade one or both. It's very similar to Pittsburgh with Raquel and Rust. Always keep in mind, too, that there's that Vancouver-Pittsburgh pipeline because Jim Rutherford's very familiar with the Pittsburgh organization and some of the players there and whatnot. So maybe that's where Vancouver looks to move a guy like Joshua. I'd rather they didn't trade Joshua personally, but I understand what they're doing here, and we'll see how it turns out. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. I also want to thank people for the fact that the store that we've launched as of July the 1st is doing better than anything else we've launched to date. So that's THGYT.ca to check all that out. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for all your support. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon.